Joining me now, Harry Anton, senior political editor and analyst at 538, and Hari Sevugan. He's a former senior spokesman for the 2008 Obama campaign and a principal for 270 Strategies, a political consulting firm named after what it takes to win a presidential election. Hari, let me start with you in Chicago. What are the, as you look at this as a veteran of the Obama campaigns, what jumps out to you about the map, particularly as compared to 08 or 2012?
Yeah, if you're looking at the states that you think you have in your pocket, in the last 6 elections, there have been 19 states that have voted Democratic, and that you start as a Democrat with 242 electoral votes. That was the same case in 2008 when we were looking at the map. So we were pretty close. We had 28 states to go to get there, and there were a couple states that were very close in 2008. Iowa was 10,000 votes. That was the raw vote difference. New Mexico is 588 raw votes.
Wow.
So we were targeting those states right away. Just with those states, you get very, very close, and then you pick up 1 or 2 other states. What I see in this new map in 2016 is a consolidation of those 19 states. And actually, we've consolidated a couple states we picked up in 2008, Colorado and Virginia, where we're not even advertising anymore.
Yeah, that to me, Harry, seems like the sort of first order biggest story when you're looking at these sort of long-term structural trends, right? Because what's untenable increasingly for Republicans is exactly the math that Hari said, which is what do you start out with on each side, right?
Right.
And, let's say those 19, and we can talk about Pennsylvania in a moment, which is among those 19, right?
Right.
But the idea of Colorado and Virginia now having moved into this sort of reliably count-onable category of a Democratic victory is a big deal for the math.
I mean, it's a huge deal because it basically cuts off the GOP path. That, you have to go through this very thin sort of thing that's going on. It's almost like trying to climb Trump Tower if I was to try and do it. And, if you just look at it, it basically means if you're a Democrat, you don't need states like Florida or Ohio or Iowa or Nevada. You don't need those states in order to win the presidential election.
Let's talk about that, the Florida and Ohio thing. So Hillary Clinton, because of the way things work, if you give her Colorado and you give her Virginia and you give her New Hampshire, where right now she's up by 15 points, she can still get, there you can see 273. That's a version of a map of Hillary Clinton becoming the president in which she loses both Ohio and Florida.
Right, and this is just amazing, right? These are the states that,
For years we sort of have acclimated ourselves to being
it was Florida and Ohio, but all of a sudden, because of Hillary Clinton's strength with white voters with a college degree, you've taken Virginia and Colorado off the board. Tim Kaine's probably adding a few points in Virginia, and it just makes the path for Donald Trump. How is he supposed to win with that map already being the way it is?
Now, Hari, the one thing that is on that map that's clear is Pennsylvania, and that's in that this is the kind of classic Republican fool's gold. Every year they say they're going to win it. Mitt Romney had didn't the last day of the election I think he had a rally in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Right now the polling average shows it's fairly safely in Clinton's corner, but Pennsylvania is in a different place demographically than places like Virginia and Colorado, which are on a kind of glide path towards being more Democratic. That is not true of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing that I would say about Pennsylvania, where it's really creeping closer and closer into a very, very safe state, is Trump is turning off suburban voters, right? So, like, if you look at the Franklin and Marshall poll from last week in Pennsylvania, in the southeast counties outside of Philadelphia, which is suburban Philadelphia, Hillary Clinton has a 40-point lead. Barack Obama won those counties by 9 points. So, the demographics there are certainly a little different than other states, but he's turning off every demographic of voter, including the ones he would need to win in Pennsylvania.
This is a key point, right? Because there's a difference between what Trump's coalition looks like at the low water mark and the high water mark, right? So right now is a sort of low water mark moment. And to Hari's point, there are lots of places he's underperforming Mitt Romney among white voters.
Right.
I mean, you certainly can't win that way.
No, you can't win. I mean, look, if you're going to turn off and only get 2% of black voters, right, and then you have these polls of Hispanic voters, these large samples which have them maybe winning 15%, you need to be able to win white voters and win them by a large margin. And the fact is he's not doing that, and he really hasn't been doing this the entire year. Maybe that slight part after the Republican National Convention, but for the most part, all the evidence that we have suggests that he has a ceiling at this point of around 40% of the vote. And guess what? Unless Gary Johnson decides to turn into Ross Perot, you're not going to win this election with 40% of the vote.
Now, you guys have been running these models where you show sort of battleground maps based on what that gap is at the national level. So say it's 10 points. At 10 points, even stuff like South Carolina and Texas start to enter the plausible picture? Why is that? It's just demographic makeup.
Well, it's just because, you know, if you're going to have a 10-point national swing, right, then all of a sudden it's going to be that the states make up the union, right? You're not going to have all of a sudden, you know, Barack Obama, you know, you have Hillary Clinton improving on Barack Obama's performance by so much in New York. It has to be across the board, and a state like South Carolina is a potential place for that.
Hari, what would you say is, let's say that the Republicans have nominated the best possible candidate, all right, some sort of laboratory amalgamum of various Republicans. He's young and he can reach out to all kinds of voters. What's the Democratic state you think is the most tenuous of those 19?
Of the 19, I mean, you look at traditional states like Wisconsin or Michigan, where you know, there is a lot of angst. There is a stronger feeling about the direction of the country, where I think voters could peel off and look for just a different direction, not necessarily having anything to do with the candidate. But I would look there. But you know, the other thing, Chris, that's interesting here is the Democratic campaign here. Hillary Clinton is going on offense. We're expanding beyond those 19, right? So like we're looking at Georgia now and Arizona, and I don't think South Carolina and Texas are necessarily going to come into play, but. Georgia's 3 out of the last 5 polls. Hillary's either tied or in the lead. Yeah,
the Georgia story is really crazy and would really be pretty seismic in terms of that electoral math. Harriet and Hari Sevugan, thank you very much. That is all in for now. We'll be back tonight, live at 11 Eastern. Why not, right? You're not going to want to miss that. The Rachel Maddow Show starts right now. Good evening.